Day 9. I spent the whole night hearing Echo 3's clicks in my head, like every repetition was a ticking clock counting down the end of our luck. The woman barely slept. She kept turning from side to side, like she was trying to shake off nightmares with her body, not her mind. When morning finally came, if you can call this gray morning, she opened her eyes and said, "We need to leave this neighborhood. I know. Today. I know." Leaving was the easy part. Figuring out where to go without walking straight into the sights of one of the two groups, that was the real problem. I looked from the balcony. 3 infected walked in a straight line like low-battery drones. Farther ahead, 2 men from the Whistle group pushed a shopping cart full of cans and ropes. They looked at the infected the way people look at half-tamed animals. "They're not afraid," the woman said. "They're not afraid because they think they're in control," I answered, "until the day they realize their control came with an expiration date." She went quiet. We left the building when the sun, hidden behind the clouds, started to look more light than dark. The air smelled like rubber, dust, and old blood. The kind of smell that only appears when 2 fronts of danger start drifting toward each other at the same time. The map I stole from that improvised lab, scribbled by her husband and patched with Echo 3's notes, said the East Zone was the least suicidal escape route. The problem? The East Zone was being patrolled by the Whistle Men, and their sound wasn't harmless anymore. A short whistle blew 2 blocks south. 1 second later, 3 infected turned their heads. Just their heads. Like hunting dogs waiting for a command. "They're herding them," I muttered. "Herding them for what?" "To set up a perimeter, test distance, time response." "And where does that lead?" "To the point where they find out what happens when the herd meets the predator." She swallowed hard. We followed the street of burned-out markets. The wind lifted black soot that stuck to our faces like grease. Metal signs hung crooked from poles, clanging against each other with a dull, sad sound. At every corner, red X marks splashed fast on walls and doors, the Whistle group leaving tracks like animals marking territory. When we turned the corner by the ruined pharmacy, we saw movement. 3 from the Whistle group were cornering an infected in a narrow alley. It growled low, but didn't charge. One of them threw a rock. The creature stepped back, not from pain, from confusion. "They're playing," the woman whispered. "They're training," I corrected. The leader wasn't there, but the man with the whistle was. He blew short, precise notes. "Pee." The infected tilted its body slightly. "Pee, pee." It backed up. "Pee." It froze. It was disgusting seeing a predator downgraded to a toy. The worst part came when it finally snapped and lunged forward. The Whistle Man smiled. "That's it," he said, and blew a short, dry, double command. Less than 5 seconds, 4 infected appeared from across the street, drawn by the sound. They ignored the humans. They went straight for the infected in the alley and attacked it. "They used zombie against zombie," the woman stammered. "This isn't a fight," I muttered. "It's selection." The cornered infected struggled, but it was much weaker. It went down, torn apart, left on the ground like rejected meat. The Whistle Man wrote something in a notebook. "They're doing natural cleaning," I said. "No," the woman answered. "They're doing breeding." Then the Whistle Man turned his head in our direction. We froze. His look wasn't, "I caught intruders." It was, "I'm measuring options." A possibility. A resource. He didn't order an attack. He just watched. And even so, my spine turned to ice.
Observação número 19. When a predator watches in silence, the prey is always you. We kept moving, now behind the buildings, where the wind carries less human scent. Sometimes we passed by infected that didn't notice us. Other times we saw human-shaped shadows moving too fast to be ordinary people. The whole neighborhood was aboard, not of chaos, of strategies. And we were walking through the middle of a war between two players who either didn't know we existed or knew and were just waiting for the right moment.
We reached the edge of the East Zone. On her husband's map, a red note marked that place. "Do not cross at night." "Why not?" she asked. Because he knew something we still don't. The street was wide, open, silent. The kind of place where noise echoes easily and scent gets trapped between tall walls. We started crossing slowly. Halfway through, we heard something behind us. Not an infected, not a whistle command, a click, but not Echo 3's. Lower, slower. Tech, tech, tech. Pause. Tech. The woman's eyes went wide. That's not the same pattern. I know. So it's not the same group. We turned at the same time. We saw them. At the far end of the street, two infected walking, but not like the others. Their movements were steadier, more aligned, and the worst part, they clicked together, like they were talking. "This is new," she whispered. They stopped in the middle of the street. The wind shifted in a strange way, carrying iron and fresh dust to us. I felt what was about to happen before I saw it. They turned their heads at the same time, like a single organism sharing one primitive brain, and started walking toward us. Slow, certain, silent. Only the clicks. Tick, tick, tick. The woman raised her gun. I grabbed her wrist. "Don't shoot." "Why not?" "Because they're not running." "That's worse." Exactly. In this world, when the monster doesn't run, it's because it's saving energy. Because it already decided it's going to catch you anyway. Rule number 22. If the enemy advances slowly, it's because it's already decided you have no way out. I pulled her back with me into a side passage between two abandoned stores. The infected didn't speed up. They just adjusted their angle, side by side, like two tracking dogs. The clicks continued, not calls, but replies to each other, like they were syncing something. "Go, go," I whispered, pushing her down the narrow corridor. We ran behind piles of trash and slipped through an open gate into an underground parking lot. We went down a dark, quiet ramp. The smell of grease and old rubber filled the air. The lot was empty, except for one thing. On the floor, there were infected footprints and drag marks, like several bodies had been pulled inside, but no one was there now. The woman looked at me, eyes huge. "They took people from here." "Not just took," I pointed at the marks. "They sorted them." "Sorted what?" "Who runs and who freezes." My God. Before she could finish, another sound echoed in the garage. Closer now. Too close. Tech, tech, tech. I looked toward the entrance. Two silhouettes appeared at the top of the ramp. They had found us. Fear slid into my throat like a knife. "They're not tracking noise," I muttered. "They're tracking trail." The woman drew a breath, stepping farther back into the lot. "What do we do?" "Disappear." She stared at me. "What?" "They follow scent and intent." My voice came out hoarse. "So we need to stop existing for a few minutes." I dropped behind an overturned car. She followed. Breath held, body still, mind empty, or trying to be. The infected walked down the ramp. Their steps were almost soft. More clicks. They moved through the lot like two wolves sniffing a den. One of them stopped less than 3 meters away from us. I could smell it, that hot, rotten scent with a hint of wet earth and dry saliva. The woman trembled. The air around her smelled like pure adrenaline. The infected turned its head slowly. Its neck cracked. It took one step, another, and then the click came from outside. Tech, tech, tech. Both infected froze. The outside sound repeated, and again. The command was clear. They turned their bodies in unison and ran toward the exit. In seconds, they were gone. The woman dropped to her knees, shaking. It took me a few seconds to remember how to exhale. That was a call, I finished, and it wasn't from Echo 3. Nor the Whistle group. The other group. She stared at the dark entrance. They're closer than I thought. They're in the neighborhood.
Observação número 20. When two hunts happen at the same time and neither is after you, be grateful. When both start looking in the same direction, run. We left the lot through a side door into a corridor of shattered shops. Gray light slipped in through broken windows. The outside clicks echoed along the walls like distant thunder. The whole city felt on alert. Two groups commanding monsters, infected learning patterns, and us, in the middle, not knowing which side was worse. We reached a low residential building and holed up there for a few hours. From the rooftop, we watched the neighborhood. To the left, flashes of metal, the Whistle group on the move. To the right, fast shadows slipping in and out of alleys, the Click group gathering infected. In the center, something new. 4 infected walking side by side, all clicking in sync. Like a sentence, like an animal with 4 heads. The woman grabbed my arm. They're grouping them. Yeah, for what? So that on the right day, they can release everything. She lowered her head. And that day is close. I nodded. Day 9. 2 hunts. 2 handlers. 2 armies. And 1 neighborhood turned into an arena, where what runs dies, what trembles becomes trail, and whoever just watches has to decide whether to stay alive or useful. I put the pencil away. Outside, the sound rose again. Tech, tech, tech. Tech. Different. A new code. I closed my eyes. This isn't survival anymore, I murmured. It's war.